Good afternoon, VW freaks, and welcome to this week's edition of the Impy Insider. Today we have our special guest, that famous Class 11 off-road racer, Corey Ryder. Wait a minute, what am I doing?
I mean, take my job. It looks like you're already ready to go. I mean, I think we know what Ron's trying to do for the future. You know, move over, Dino. We're going to have another seat in the chair now with you, buddy.
No, I could never take it away from that,
No
man.
way. But partners, the tag team duo, guys, I don't know how you open a friggin' Tuesday show better than that, man. So, wow. I'm just like speechless. It kind of gave me a little chills, man, to have the man himself hanging out with me today and the rest of the crew here. Got Eddie on the engineer. Eddie on the keyboards and everything going on there. We've got engineer Jesse on the cameras, making sure everything's working good and that we can give you guys good sound. So far, I have yet to see a single complaint to sound, so that's a bonus. Roy is the first one to chime in and say hello.
Hello, Roy. If I might, I'd like just to take a minute. I want to be political, but I do want to say we have had a whole year almost taken away from us. So VW freaks, wear your masks, stay socially distanced, wash your hands. Let's look forward to a really good year next year. There are some events starting to happen, so I hope to see you there. But, you know, socially distanced, stay away from me.
There's your disclaimer right out of the gate, guys. So everybody wants to go back racing. Everybody wants to go see our friends, our loved ones, our
car shows,
our cruise nights, our BS fest, and you know what? We've all got a goal to go to Europe next year.
Yeah, really we do.
Bad.
We all want to go. And if you haven't been there to the European Bug-In and to Hesse-Schuldendorf, and Hesse-Schuldendorf only happens every 4 years, and it is so bad. It is the pinnacle, the mountain of you vintage car guys, RVA guys. I know a lot of you have already been, but if you get a chance to go there, go. It's unbelievable. Thanks to Christian Grudman and his family. It's fantastic.
I cannot wait. I have yet to go to that event, and
you will enjoy.
This year is the year for me, or this coming year, I hope, if all goes well.
Yeah,
I'm super stoked and glad to tag around with you guys over there. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, so. we find a way to have a lot of fun, and we get to travel down row after row of the finest vintage cars ever assembled in the world. And oddly enough, at every corner there's a beer stube, and we're sampling. We're kind of a quality control. We make sure the German beer's up to snuff while we're there.
Well, guys, I mean, what better intro to get things started than that right there? So before we get rolling, I mean, we've already kind of got the ball rolling, but before we really get flying, send your questions, send your comments, send your DMs, send your wants and wishes. I want to hear this story about this, and I want to do that. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. We did a little bit of Instagram stuff. I make no promises, but we're streaming live on the MP Inc. Instagram. But we got everybody here watching the cameras and watching the comments, so we'll do our best to get through every single one of them. So get them ready. We got them locked in the chair. We got him, comfortable. We got him some refreshments, and now we're ready to just talk. So any single thing you guys want to talk about, the days of old, racing legends, maybe we'll talk about secret camshafts and stories. This is your chance to sit down and have a one-on-one with the dude.
Without asking, I'm going to ram some days of future past down at you. This is a quiz. Who are these freaks? Who are these VW freaks? This is an old picture, and these were relatively young guys at the time. I think I might have been the oldest one there, and I was squeezing close to 30. So this is a kind of a cool old picture. And if you got any questions about Fat or Greg Aronson or Mark Thurber, I'd be willing to tell you everything I can get away with telling.
We're going to go PG-13 today.
Yeah,
No R.
this is a family show. VW freaks are usually family people. We may have some bad hot rods, but the problem is you make them bad hot rods and you have kids, and the kids say, "Isn't that my car now? Is that my car?"
Yeah. I know I did it.
And we'll talk about some race car history, and we'll show you, at least from my standpoint, my transition through a couple of underdogs and a tar baby, and ending up with the car that I drive today. And we got some pictures. And so, if you got questions, fire them away. I'm sober and ready to answer.
We got everybody chiming in. So Rick Meredith chiming in, Darren of course, chiming in. Alex from Mexico. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon in December if all goes well. And John Schweers already, when's the next drag day going to be? Does that mean John's going to be digging something out of the archives?
Boy, I hope so, because John still, while having, we talked about kids taking over cars, John has fielded this super team of dragsters and stuff that his kids drive. But it's about time. I think he still has a turbocharged wild variant, a Type 3 that's pretty wild and crazy. And I think he may still have two of them, and a little match race between Chris Schweers and John Schweers would be a fantastic thing to happen at the drag day. That would really, a couple of generations. And John don't hold back. John has some really nice equipment. He takes it to those crazy guys down at VW Paradise. I know that's not the name now, but I call it VW Paradise. It'll always be the same thing. Yep. And those guys make some bad stuff. So if that could happen, anything I can do to help that, I would. So, John, I'd even like to sit down over at your garage, because his garage not only is just full of fine race cars, he has really good beer.
Yeah, just isn't there like a kegerator?
There's a hook there.
And I think, what is he, just like a couple streets over from you anyway? So
yeah, he's stumbling distance from my house.
Oh man, so it's funny, but all these guys already chiming in and putting comments up and questions, and we're gonna get through that. But I was cracking up because we kind of started the show with just the original BRM, and I think it's a great place to just start, just from some of the stories and take it from the beginning. Basically, that's the most iconic wheel, I guess, that you'd say that's out there today.
So
that started it. So
let's go back around 1966, give or take a year or so, and a few of us went up to Impey, then Riverside at the time. And we met Dean, because Dean was there. He was kind of running the race shop, and Darryl was a younger guy, running around and hanging out. His dad owned the whole place. And we got to get a little tour and stuff, and we got shown the BRM. And the BRM wasn't widely. They were putting them on some of the GTVs. The GTVs mostly had Sprint Stars, shiny, chromy, whatever. But we noticed the wheel, and Darryl said, "Hey, check this out." And he said, "Pick that up." And it's like you picked it up and you almost fell over backwards, and like our eyes gleamed and stuff. So of course we had to have them. And back in those days, they were terribly expensive. I think they were about $70 or $75 a wheel, which was like a lot of money in those days, but what a fantastic deal. So of course the DKP Car Club was trending towards being, instead of being Volkswagen's Limited, which was the original name of the kind of social car club it was being joined by VW freaks like myself and Don Crane and people that had an eye towards performance. So the transition was happening, and this wheel was perfect. I do have to again tell the story. I may have already told it on this broadcast, but Billy Arroyo, a member of the Panzers, ruined the BRM wheel for everybody. He spent way too many hours and a thing of Brasso making them look beautiful. And so, of course, we all had to do that. The shame was you could spend hours on the wheel, go out cruising Friday night at Big Carl's where they still had car hops, maybe go and find a little competitive street action. I usually look around for my two sons when I say that to make sure they're not listening, because, we didn't do that. But The point being, by about 11:30 or midnight, the fog would come into Anaheim because this was before climate change took over the world, and it would get foggy at night, and your beautiful BRM wheels could go back to looking like the one behind me that you can see. I don't know if it's in view in the camera now.
Oh, yeah.
But that they would turn to that magically. So, Billy, you made us all work our fingers to the bone, but they really did look beautiful. And on his beautiful red split window Volkswagen, they looked really cool. So
now they just sit there and grow hair, but special thanks to Henry for
they're an iconic wheel, and everybody loves them. And they used to come into the early Fleming and Aronson before it was fat, and we had a BRM wheel on the dyno as a hose rack. And it was like, it wasn't. They weren't so sought after. Yeah. So
now it just, I guess we're going to jump around a lot. I mean, I can see
that's
it already.
Cool.
It's and that kind of takes one on the spot. Did you ever think back to, let's say, their 70s days, and then what stuff would be valued at so later in life, or even just like when you really start kind of getting into the pinnacle of the time in the mid to late 70s, right? Then things started to get either, I don't want to say dry up, but they started going up in prices. You ever kind of go, wow. And then to think about what a set of NOS BRMs goes for these days.
Well, I'll give you a little example. When Greg and I opened Fleming and Aronson, or even before, when I worked for Gene Berg, we used to go buy engine cases, and they were $62 for an engine case, a Type 1 case. And you could buy dual port heads for $24 a cylinder head. There are times nowadays when I thought, boy, if we could have went and bought 100 pairs of heads or 100 cases. But the truth is, was a lot of money in the late 60s and early 70s. A lot of people that work for minimum wage, what was it? $3 an hour or thereabouts. Yeah. So that was a lot of money then. But I like to tell the story of when Don Crane and I went to Carroll Shelby, because Carroll Shelby was the importer at the time of Weber carburetors, especially, not Weber but 48 IDAs. Because he put them on Cobras and stuff. And we went down there, and as we go out the door, Don Crane's mother famously said, "Did your dad give you any money?" And he'd say, "No, that was a lie." And he'd get money from his mom, so he had a few $100. And we went down there with the idea of buying a pair of them. Well, they were $62.50 each, $125 for a pair. And we went, what? Okay, so we bought 4 of them. We bought 2 pair. And we brought him back. And, of course, he was the first guy in the club to have 48 IDAs on his car. And I don't know where the other pair went, but I was a lowly worker for, I worked for, this is Westphalia Motors in Santa Ana. I was a regular VW service guy. And I was in the club because of Greg Bunch, Greg, we're all thinking about you, and we're all praying for your recovery. I think I put on Facebook that I did talk to him. He is doing better. His kidneys are functioning now, so he's off dialysis. We wish you well, Greg. Sorry for the deviation. No, but back in the day, we started building hot rod motors. I know I'm getting a little away from the value of stuff, but all the parts and pieces we bought were cheap compared to today's prices. But we didn't make the money like we make nowadays. I don't make any money now. I'm retired. So any help for the Hunsaker race program is always appreciated. And anyway, there were gems and stuff like these wheels. If you could have afforded to buy 100 pairs of these, and hang on to them, you could have made a killing with them nowadays. But in truth, for most guys, the aluminum reproduction, like by Flat 4, Impy, many companies, you don't have to stay up late polishing them, They look the same tonight as they will tomorrow morning. I don't care how foggy it gets. Yeah. So,
especially for you beach guys.
The cool thing about the lightweight is really kind of lost on street cars, Not in our minds back in the day. I mean, we drove around with fiberglass bucket seats and the back seat. We didn't need that. Nobody's riding back there anyway, so that's out. I mean, we used to have my 56. Let me show a picture.
We got a lot of cool pictures, guys, of stuff that Ron's brought in for us. So
This car right there, my 56 oval window in DKP, full tank of gas, weighed 1,550 pounds in the street. So it meant something to us because occasionally you might have to prove how well the car ran. So weight is horsepower. Remember that. And I know a lot of my drag racer buddies out there know that. Weight is horsepower.
We got another good question in here. It says James Kidman.
I'm going to shoot ahead real quick to now. This is what I drive now. Has a back seat in it, has a stereophonic system, rear speakers. However, it does have a little motor in it. It makes 181 horse through a Stinger and 168 with the wonderful A1 exhaust. Sorry, I'm doing advertising again on it. And it's a lot of fun. It runs really good, but it bulges closer to, I think when we went to Fontana and I put it on the scale, it was closing in on 1,800 pounds, which was, in those early days, was 300 pounds too much. So anyway, question?
Yeah, so it's first question coming in. Where did it go here? It says, have you ever driven like a dune buggy down the drag strip or some type of little rail buggy?
Yeah, back in the day, we did a Myers Manx, an original one. This was through, we were still Fleming and Aronson and Fleming and Aronson High Performance. And a guy named Gary Rollison came in with his Myers Manx. And so we did a motor for him, a Type 1 motor. And I'll deviate a little bit. I tested it one day at FAT, and it was a pretty good motor. It was people often ask what size VW motor for the street, and I go, there's one size or bigger. It's 84 by 94 or bigger. So we built an 84 by 94 for it, and it made squeezing close to 190 horsepower on the street. And I drove it and brought it back into FAT, and in those days, FAT was, like the earlier picture I showed you, it was at the very back. At this time, it was the location where the name transition happened when Mark Thurber came in. But it was Fleming and Aronson High Performance at the time. Anyway, I drove this yellow buggy in, and I stomped on it in the parking lot, which, we did. And the accelerator pedal got caught under the carpet. And being a drag racer, I just kept kicking at the pedal instead of, I didn't want to put the clutch in because I didn't want to hurt the motor. And I'm reaching over here while looking at how fast we're coming towards the shop and trying to hit. Anyway, I hit the steps in front of the building, and one headlight broke off, flew up through the only window above and broke right through that. And I went down and hit my head on the windscreen, which was half size, and cut my nose and was a bloody mess, but I was okay. So anyway, long story short, we had to end up building him a whole new buggy. Through the magic of insurance manipulation, he got a whole brand new deal, and we built a really nice big Type 4 motor for it. Anyway, long story short, the owner drove it, and it would run like low 12s, and I ran 1182 at 117 or 18 miles an hour in it one time, because the idea of sitting open air, sticking up with a short windscreen in a Myers buggy is one and done. It's just like we built a Rabbit dragster, and I drove that a few times, and I went, and they said, well, what do you think? I said, I think I'm done with this thing, because you put it in high gear and the whole world goes blurry, and you're only an inch off the ground. And I wanted my nice, safe bug body around me, which really, I don't know how safe it
False
was,
sense
but
of security.
yeah, it was exactly that. And so the Rabbit dragster came and left. I think the best we ever ran with a Rabbit dragster was like 980 and 147 miles an hour. And I know, Paul Schley, your dragster went faster, and my dear brother Bear Barlow had the most bad, at the time it was a Diacono dragster, and his was the cream of the crop because he built it right, he built it light. Again, weight got in the way of mine. Mine ended up being a little over 75 pounds too heavy, and somebody said, well, you need to get rid of that weight, and I go, dude, the chassis weighs 75 pounds. If I get rid of that and I hold the front wheels with my front feet and the back and my rear feet, put the motor in my hind end, you know, what am I going to do? You know? So my Econo dragster days lasted about 6 months, and we were done. And I thought I was done VW drag racing. And, you know, later on, we'll get to that. Along came Hunsaker, and, you know, there we go. Things change.
So we got some really good questions coming in. And let me know, Eddie, if you got anything coming up that needs to be addressed. But John Jackson asked, after all these years of racing, what size engine, and I might know this one, but what size engine did you build for your current street VW?
84 by 94.
That's simple.
So, you know, people say, well, I have an 82 by 94 or whatever. And I go, look, 82s and 84s cost the same money. So 84, 94, there are better sizes, even bigger, but of course, cooling issues and long life. And you need to think about all the things that go about having a hot street motor. And that's rod angle and rod length choice and camshaft and what are you really going to do with this motor, and how many times are you going to bury the throttle on it versus how many times you're going to go get groceries. And I know you don't get groceries, but I mean, how many times you're going to go on a 60-mile cruise and it happens to be 95 degrees out, especially if you're in SoCal where we love it, and opposed to mash the throttle all the way down and show that, you know, you got a little more whatever's than the other guy. So be serious and realistic when you make choices for a street motor. Choose wisely, because a lot of guys say, I want the biggest and baddest and I want the most. And the truth is, you really don't need that. You don't want to end up with that. I'm not saying you want to lightweight it. You want to have plenty of motor to have a good time and have fun. Well, within the legal limit of the law, but
or while someone's watching,
make good choices for yourself. Because if you're telling me, I have guys tell me, I want the baddest cam, I want this and everything. I'm thinking, this guy really doesn't need this, and I don't want to diminish your thoughts, but build what works for you. So. Anyway, and the right gearbox and the right oil cooler system.
That kind of
rolls
that rolls into question two from a different guy out of Texas, Clint Cox, who's got a show down there. But he said,
Texas, home of Lyle Cherry, miss you, Lyle Cherry, rest in peace. Built some bad stuff. So
yep. And one of the coolest guys you can call him. He'd answer the phone and talk to you. I remember his wheelie bars were it, man.
Yeah, VW freaks. We're all brothers one way or another, and sisters. It's like it's more than just a car. It's a whole clan. It's a whole society. It's a whole lifestyle, and it involves, you know, pan scrapers and custom guys and cow look guys and vintage guys and off-road guys and fiberglass buggy guys, and you're all brothers.
Yep. Clint's question is, I'd love to help him settle a debate. So an IRS or a swing for a drag/street car?
Well, IRS is the easiest thing to keep the tire square, and for some reason, most VW drag cars are swing axle. The current car that I drive, the Hunsaker car, is swing axle, but it, in a sense, has IRS U-joint style. It's actually Corvette U-joints. So I run a bus box. And since the tires don't move a lot, in my opinion, is easier to make a swing axle car work, but an IRS car is safer, better, smarter. If I could do it over again, that's probably what we would do. But when we rebuilt the Hunsaker car, we followed, you know, what everybody else was doing. We let Ron Loomis make it, and he made it work real well. RLR does a great job with race cars, and if you ask me what kind of a car would I build again, I'd have Ron Loomis do it again. But I'm not looking for another project. I'm looking just to drive.
Yeah.
2020 took that away, and we want it back.
Heck yeah, everybody does. All right, so we're just going to keep rapid firing you stuff as this thing's come through so we can make sure we get through everybody.
You're just going to get what I think. I'm not the only guy in the world. I'm not the only one that does this, so I'm just going to give you my experience and my opinion, and, you know.
Yeah. It's just
let the chips
40
fall.
something, 50 years at this stuff.
You know, hey, we've had a long time, a lot of fun. You know, we spent a whole lot of our time at FAT doing the off-road racing thing. We learned early there are plenty of guys that do drag and that kind of stuff while we still stayed in the street scene a lot of the time. We found our own groove with off-road racing, and when it comes to air-cooled, we pretty much dominated. We, you know, we had a good time.
Not to toot my own horn or anything, but you used to kick at everybody's. We had good drivers, good customers.
I got a quick question coming in on Instagram. What is your favorite Cowlick car and why?
Well, my favorite one right now is the one that I own. And I call him Sonny. But I would have to say that the iconic one would be my partner, Greg Aronson's white car. That was the car that was so far removed from what was going on in most of the time then. He really, you know, pushed the envelope, and not a lot of guys would say, you know what, I'm going to cut the whole dash out and put a black plexiglass one in. So it was different thinking, but it was a leader at the time in the Panzer movement. A lot of guys, you know, Mike Mahaffey's split window was awesome. There were a number of cars, you know, that there were a number of guys that turned out to be real characters. Jim Sarge, Edmiston, Don Crane, who's now Professor Crane, who teaches at Cal State Fullerton. But back in the day, he was out there behind White Front street racing with the boys, just like the rest of us.
Nice.
But, you know, there were a lot of cars. It was a general movement. And so, you know, I loved my black oval window back in the day. I don't have an oval window now because this old man's neck doesn't turn to look back like it could, like it you should. So I have a bigger back window car, but I love the car I have now. This car to me is everything I would want. I call it Sunny for a simple reason. It has a sunroof. It opens up the whole roof. It's canvas. It's a beautifully nice car that stops and goes, and everything works on it, and it runs good. It's got a Quaife differential and chromoly axes and a Rhino aluminum case. So if I get stupid, I don't have to call AAA. You know, I can do something stupid and drive away. So it's got all the right parts in it, but it's a little more sedate. Maybe it's not quite as low in the front as back in the day. We had to fight with a law that said it had to be 24 inches from the center of the headlight to the ground. And my black oval window, like many Panzer cars, was 17 and a half. So it was way down in front. And how did it ride? It rode like dog shit, to be quite honest with you. Nowadays, by the way, we lowered them either by pulling them down with a selector drop, which they rode like they were locked down, which they were, or we would pull all the torsion bars out, weld the stack together, and cut bars out of them. And then they'd only have about an inch of down travel, so they go bang,
just banging around.
You know, and shocks. We'd drill the shocks out because they got in the way so that the thing would come down. But things are better now. You can get short shocks, you can get adjustables, and the godsend to lowering front ends was drop spindles.
Right.
You know, and of course, we would go really fast with drum brakes, and a 56 oval window with drum brakes is like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
Hope and a prayer.
Yeah.
I got another one on Instagram. Is that okay?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, they're asking your thoughts on how you see the VW scene developing in the future.
Well, I think
That's a
that
good question.
it's going lots of ways. And again, I run into this all the time. You know, you can go to a show and you can see lots of examples of cars and done in different stylings and stuff. And you run into somebody and they're looking at a car and they go, well, I really don't like this, or I wouldn't have done this. And what I want to say to them is, you know what? Really, I don't think the dude built the car for you. I think he built it for his taste and what he likes. And I can see that, you know, I understand that. And I think that the scene is going, Cal Look is an ever growing, expanding kind of adaptation of I'd say the white car that we talked about would be the strictest. That car is used in drawings in Hot VW's magazine. It would be the strictest adaptation of what people would a genuine cow look. And I think that the one that I have nowadays is a little deviation from that, but it's what I like.
Right.
And I think that look to like guys like Dave Pipoli, who are really they do stuff that might even be considered to be Cal resto, Cal look restored, but he does a lot of neat stuff that you really need to look close. The cars are really beautiful and well done at his compound, and I've been invited there, and it's much to my shame that I haven't made a trip over there, because Dave's been really cool to say, come on over, dude. And so, you know what? I think in a week or two, you might get that call from me, and I'd like to come by and see, because I'm impressed with what he's doing. And there are guys that are into the patina, pan scrapers, that kind of scene, and they have their stuff going on. And I love it when we have shows like the Bug-In, where you can go, and like the Prado show, which is a really fantastic show, and just in a couple of weeks at Octo, the bus scene. So I think that each division of the scene doing their thing is growing, and it's amazing because there just aren't that many cars around anymore. And having said that, when I went to Indonesia, I saw shops where they build buses and Carmen Kias, and they hammer out the body parts. And I know Bob at BBT is reproducing really high quality parts. So I guess what I would say that the bottom line is there is no end to this scene. And I love to see younger guys coming along, because as much as I love the scene, one day my scene is going to close out. So I hope that, this little car of mine, Sonny, goes on to somebody else, It'll cost you a lot of money. No, but I like to see it carry on, younger generations. It's important. It's like we talked about John Schweers and him doing stuff with his kids, and his kids carry on that part of the scene. Don't get rid of those notchbacks, because we want to see a father-son matchup. So
that'd be a cool grudge. Jason Eggum's chiming in. So
hey, Jason, how are you, brother?
Gotta like racing Jason. Another generation kind of coming up through.
Oh yeah.
And he says, you want some turbo boost in your life, Ron.
No, I want to race in the Fast Four Cartel. I have to pick and choose because I run some events for the Kimballs. We've talked about this before, and I don't get to race because you can't do a good job of running the show and participating in the show. At least I don't think you can, so I'm not even going to do that. But I'd like to go the Fast Four Cartel thing, but I like to do it normally aspirated with a little magic nitrous oxide. So we'll see. I hope I get to do that this year. All chances of that got taken away from me. And
Verona.
Well, I'm going to go to Verona, but we're going to test stuff. We got a new clutch management deal, so we're going to see if we can work that out. And I'm going to stay in Super Street mode. But we've talked about adding nitrous to the Super Street motor. But I think as I think about it, we're just going to build another motor because we just figure if we just make a good solid motor that'll make, say, maybe 250 or something, then we can add what we need. Yeah. And we'll test it out. Jason's a tough guy to beat, Brian Marvin's a tough guy to beat, especially if I ever get paired up with Brian Marvin and Joy gets out there in those white boots and those little shorts and backing them up. And it's like, I'm going to be like, no, I got to, the whole key to running a good drag race is to think one car, one lane, your situation. And she really is a distraction, let me tell you. So I don't need that, Brian Marvin.
There's your habit, Brian. Kryptonite.
He's some kryptonite for sure. And he runs a good car, as does Jason, as does Anthony Hearns. And it was so much fun. I actually got the chance to write the story for Hot VW's magazine of the Fall Brawl, and it'll be coming out in a couple of issues. And it's a different kind of story. It's not like a blah, 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 round by round. It's more of a road trip. It was like Mike Herbert from Rancho Transmissions, my DKP brother Scott Pascuma, Alistair Astaire from Berg Enterprises, and this old engine builder. So we went and we had a fun road trip, and we went to a nice classic Northern California brewery, and we're quality control. We're checking out across the state of California
like your style,
that they're
Ron.
doing a good job. So, and then we went to a drag race. So it's all involved, and imagine our surprise when we pull out to this beautiful Champion Raceway, and on the way in are nothing but field after field of hemp. Now they're growing it for rope. So they tell me.
Sure.
But it's an amazing drive through to get to a beautiful drag strip. So I don't want to deviate too far. But Jason, I look forward to it, and I hope we get a chance to give it a go together.
That's awesome. We have another. Well, while we're talking motors and whatnot, Moose 427, and I believe Moose is from Australia. What cam do you run in an 8494 off-road engine?
Okay. More importantly than that, you need to talk about what class we're talking about. In other words, all of the choices for cams for off-road motors are determined by the class, meaning how heavy is the vehicle, single seat, 2-seat, buggy, class 5 car, the weight of the vehicle. Because in off-road racing, HP is important, but there's another way more important number, and it's called the T number, torque. Torque is what makes wheels go round. Torque is what makes up for, a bad driver. Because if you have a driver in the off-road race car and he gets in the wrong gear based on the terrain, and he pulls the car down, and we really count on torque. So it's a hard question to answer without knowing more variables. But in fact, we had a complete line of camshafts that we developed with Steve Long to satisfy the needs based on the weight of the car and blah, blah, blah. So if I knew more information, I would give a recommendation. But we had a number of grinds, and they still do. Fat Performance still goes on in different hands, and they're trying to make a good go of it. So I would call them and ask, and they might even call me back. But if you gave me the weight of the car and what class it was and stuff, and gear ratio choices, we could start to make a choice.
There you go.
Every time you build a motor, there are a lot of elements outside the motor that go into making the choice for what the motor should have in it.
Yay for torque. I don't know if you're speaking to me about a bad driver.
No, I wasn't at all. But torque, it's like when people would come in to FAT and want an off-road motor, and I'd say, well, we got lots of cams, we got lots of pistons, we got lots of head choices, we got all these choices. The one thing that's never on the shelf is talent. So you either have it or you earn it or learn it. And it's a hard thing to buy, and nothing beats seat of the pants, going out there and beating the heck out of your body to find out what works. And one of the key elements about running in the dirt is the ability to read the terrain ahead of you, to be in the right gear at the right time, at the right point on the track.
There you go. Speaking of my spirit or something. we all got a bet here that we're going to get Ron to co-drive with me in the Class 11, see if he can...
But in drag racing now, the key to it is to keep the motor at the right point in every gear, and to pull that gear lever like your life depended on it, and to keep the RPM splits where they're supposed to be, and to make that car leave like it's on a rail.
Yeah, I guess it's just a fun little Baja bug to tool around Australia. So, generous.
I'm going to say that you need something that's in the area of around 254 to 258 at 50 thousandths. Because when people talk duration in camshafts and they say, oh, well, it's 310 degrees advertised, that number means nothing. At 50 thousandths lift into the cam, you're into the meat of the cam. And that duration means more to me than any advertised duration. And valve lift depends on valve spring and choices you're making. And if it's a fun little car, don't get too carried away in the duration. Those numbers I told you were a maximum. You might even have a little more fun if it was closer to the high 240s, 248, 250 duration, and lift of upwards of a half inch. You never need to go over a half inch for an off-road fun car, especially.
Man, how cool is that? I mean, since they can't call, Fat and just start picking his brain.
And I'm not even selling you anything.
Yes. Just think, that doesn't even require a checkbook. But I mean, that's what it's about. This is what I love about this show and this platform, is for us to just sit down with guys like you, and pick brain. And this is going to go down, like, we'll have this forever,
Well, I really enjoyed watching when Dave Pip, the Pip was on, and listened to him talk about what he was doing and what he likes to do and everything. Because everybody's experience in the scene, the people that make stuff and build stuff, is different. So it's fun to hear their viewpoints and what they like to do. And watch out, Dave, I'm coming. I'm going to check it all out.
I think we should tag team him. I haven't been over there. So
yeah,
I got a great question. This is a really good one, and I kind of like it myself. So Sean Brown says, I remember reading about DKP in the early days and when he was into VWs, and a huge impact it was on him. What do you think the importance of clubs today are to keep the hobby alive, is what I think.
Okay, so I think they're extremely important. I think they're amazing. I know that kind of when, I went through a transition to where Greg and I got in business, and then we got into off-road, and I got out of owning a VW. I bought a 911, Mr. Cool, my Porsche, which I still have today. And we weren't so much in the middle of the scene. And when I kind of got back into it through generations of the Panzers, because this current generation is the third kind of redoing of the Panzers, because most of the guys that were in one don't own VWs, or didn't for a while. Some of them came back around, but the guys in the second generation came to me, which I felt, honored, and said, hey, we're thinking about doing that again. And I said, go, what the heck, go. And the same thing happened with the third generation, which they're now about 25 years into it. So what I'm getting at is over 50 years that club maintained. And you go out now, and like I go to shows and stuff, and they're bigger than they ever were, at least in terms of participation. They may not match the early bug-ins with spectators, but still, you go to Prado, like last year in Prado, it was an amazing scene, and clubs are a great big part of it. And the San Diego area has been reborn. There's a bunch of VW clubs in San Diego now. Amber Zent, who's president of, I think it's the Locals. If I get it wrong, I'm sorry, dear, but they're doing a lot of stuff, and they're keeping the whole scene going. And in Orange County, which used to be the hotbed, there are some clubs, and there's some great clubs besides my club. There's DKK. And yeah,
got a nice DKK pillow. Thanks, Henry.
They're the lifeblood of the scene. But the truth is, it's worldwide. When I was blown away when I went to the first European bug-in, and how many people all over Europe are now into their club scenes. And while I don't know all the names of them, there are a tremendous amount of them. And then I went to Southeast Asia, to Indonesia and Malaysia, and it's mind-boggling, the scene there too. And when I went to Australia, that's another whole huge scene. I'm going back. I was going to go back this year, but there you go again. 2020. It's like 2020 isn't clear vision. 2020 was a blinding of everything we got to do. And so I'm hoping that if you all do this, you wear those, and we do the right things, we can beat this nasty hidden enemy, one that you can't see away. And I'm not being political. I'm just being scientists say, so let's all beat it back, because Ron needs to go to Australia and Indonesia and Europe, and I'm dying to go to Japan. I know that the scene in Japan is just fantastic and overwhelming. Bill Schwimmer from the Panzers and the Lightning Bug Boys, Schlays, got to go to Yokohama a couple of years back. And so the worldwide scene and clubs are the lifeblood of it.
Yep. And nostalgia cars.
Nostalgia
cars is the guys.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys built some beautiful stuff. Beautiful, beautiful cars. And you'll see a lot of them showcased on.
Speaking of nostalgia cars, I have some pictures.
All right. I can't stop thinking about it. Oh, wow. Talking about nostalgia right there.
How about this one? I hope the glare, I have a hat on so the glare of my bald head doesn't interfere with showing pictures, but this is a old shot of some old buddies of
Look at
mine.
That is cool.
Now we're going to go really deep back.
I'm going to show this one real quick, though. For those of you guys that saw this one earlier and have seen the shots at European Bug-In, they've tried to replicate a lot of that stuff, especially like with the Impy banner running down the face of the grandstands and stuff like that, and the shots that we posted on our Instagram. I mean, it was pretty cool. Wow.
This is this is an old picture which has faded and probably got some taco sauce because we like to eat tacos. But these are DKP members Roy Jimenez, Jim Edmiston, Dennis DeMarco, Doug Gordon. I don't know who this guy is, but he was lucky. He got to have the good part. He got to drive this old hot rod. And Gene Berg.
How cool.
Gene Berg. So speaking of those cars. Sorry,
I like the show and tell, though. I like the show and tell. We're going to wing it. I'm not even using these. That's good enough.
This is kind of what you were talking about.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So the guys, that is the track. I mean, it's just literally a daily street in Chimay.
It's a track with a crown in the middle, so the right lane leans down to the right and the left lane leans down to the left. And about halfway down, it goes downhill I think it's about 7 degrees. So it's a pretty good drop. But like I always told people, like when I got the Schley brothers to come over there and I got Daryl to come over there, I said, you drive the car and they watch you launch first gear, second gear, and when you put it in third gear, just kind of ease out of it because it drops downhill. And they're not watching you, They kind of look back starting line. So I said it's important because these guys have these great, especially Russell Ritchie, recreations or nostalgia VW gassers. And the last thing you want to do is mess one up.
Yeah.
You want to give it back to them the way you got it from them. So, take it easy. It's not really a race, except I do tell them, you guys that haven't been doing it for a while, I will leave on you.
It's definitely the quote unquote track gets better as the days get longer because you get a little rubber down there. But the interesting part of it was the top end, the return rotor, quote unquote, the down coming backwards. The only time you will ever be allowed to drive
back down the drag strip. We always in our drivers meetings at our events here nowadays, we say there are no U-turns on the drag strip and please don't come back the other way. But the interesting thing about racing at Chimay is they'll run 20 pairings. So there's 40 of us. There's a little area which was actually part of the chicane if they wanted to use it in the track off the straightaway. So it's a nice little area where you could have as many as 100 cars in there. But there's usually 40 of us or so, and we'll wait. And then we get a guy down there with the radio. He'll get there. Okay, all clear to go back. So we'll all kind of start them and coast back and drive back. And it's so much fun. Waiting down there to that time, we get out of our cars and there's a lot of European guys and guys from all over the world and other gringos, and that's me. And we'll stand around and talk down at the end and tell tall tales and talk about when we actually drove. Like I'll drive the recreation of the Underdog, and I remember when I first saw it, and Russell Ritchie made it. Thank you, Russell. I'll always be forever in your debt for it. But when I walked around the trailer and I saw it, and I went, "Oh my gosh, I'm 20-something again." So, and I might have told this tale before, but for me, it's a memory I'll fondly remember as long as I'm on the planet. So, it's a lot of fun, and I encourage anybody if you're thinking about joining a club, join it. Become a member, be part of the scene. If you're what they used to call a lone wolf in car clubs, come on, come to events. Let's all get together and talk about, our good times and good times to be.
I mean, what better way to cover it? I mean, that's going right into it. There's if you got some more to Eddie, go feel free to chime in. But Rob Robinson chiming in, he's like, what about keeping it, quote unquote, affordable for the next generation of VW hobbyists and like those reproduction panels? like the Bob sells stuff like that. They're not cheap. I mean,
No,
but
they're
Bob's
not.
not getting rich off of selling those panels, by the way.
And unfortunately, no, it does cost more to do what we do. And the best I can say is, save your pennies, work hard. If you're a young guy, go to college and try to get a really good job. I don't know what the future holds as far as all that kind of stuff, and I'm no soothsayer, but there are cars, and some of us that own these cars are getting old, and when we leave, they're going to still be here. So hopefully they're not legislated out of existence. I see the push towards, especially in California, by 2030 or whatever, of having all electric cars. That doesn't mean we have to get rid of our old cars. We should take care of them. And it points out the need for events. It points out the need for drag strips, so that we can take them to places. If they can't run on the highways and the roads, they've got to have facilities where we can have some sort of cruise. We can get out in the desert. I don't know what the answer is, but I look towards your generation, the younger generation, to come up with solutions to hang on to these, what I call valuable pieces of history, to use them. And if nothing else, we're all going to Australia or something, and take all our cars with us.
I mean, I think you brought up a great point too that you touched on, of how important it really is for, those that are listening at home or watching this live. But when an event is near you, I don't care if it's even just an EVW event. I'll use Speedway, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Get off your ass, get down there, go support them on a Friday or Saturday night. And spend the $20, and it's an absolute hoot. But
if you're not participating and you're a spectator, at most really good motorsports event, you can have a beer. You can have a nice beer and watch and join in. And if you don't do that and support events like that, they'll go away. I hear people talking, like promoters. Oh, those guys get so much money. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
It's expensive to rent a track. All those things cost money. So participate or spectate. Be involved. If you say you love the scene, be part of it.
Love it. I mean, that's some of the best memories I had growing up, was going to Ascot with my dad.
And I don't make any money at this. I just want to see it hang around. I want a chance to go race Jason Egums and Brian Marvin and Doug Gonzalez and Joe Maestas and Dave Bendig. And hey, Roger Crawford, come on back out. We're waiting for you. And Jack Sacchetti and Sean Gears and all these guys. And Victor, I keep hearing your car's going to be ready any moment. Ron Loomis, get that car done. Let's all be out there. Let's have full fields and let's have full grandstands. And let's all have a good time, because time is short. It'll end someday.
Heck yeah. Fred Jolly chiming in.
Hello, Freddie.
Said, Ron, what do you think of this is a good question. What do you think of the latest Dean's project to rebuild Daryl's 67 white car?
Well, I'm going to give you a little inside information. I'm involved in that project. I've been asked to put the motor together for it, which I feel is an honor. It's all nostalgia parts, and Impy's been very kind to supply some parts, because some of the parts were so old that they were virtually unusable. So everything that can be used that it was in the thing will be, but some of the stuff inside you can't see. What does it matter? It'll be better and stronger. And Impy was very involved back in the days. Joe Vitone, Daryl's dad, owned Impy in the beginning. As a matter of fact, he created Impy. So those things all tie in together. And I think the project is fantastic. And there's great plans and hopes that with some people's help, that thing can end up at the European Bug-In, and maybe even in Yokohama, Japan for that show, and be kind of an emissary of an old American race car guy, Daryl Vitone, who's dearly departed, of his history, and we can all enjoy it. When I go to the European Bug-In and I see all these recreations of cars, truly I'm transported back to when I had hair and I was racing with these guys. So, hey, It's all good as far as I'm concerned. And anybody that resurrects a car like the Stutby or the Iguana or any of those cars, I think it's fantastic. I'd like to see Billy Mitchell's stuff show up again, the Thunderbug, and I'd like to see Bear's cars be resurrected. Bear runs a car in Hawaii, and Bear, I hope you're doing really well. It was good to see you a couple of years ago, and so when 2020 fades away, and I hope 2021 is a bright new day, and we can all travel again.
Indeed. Got a question that came through. It says, "What made you paint the Underdog orange?"
It was already orange. We could not afford fancy race car paint jobs. The story about the Underdog is Doug Gordon, who was a little overweight, had an orange DKP Bug. It was a cool looking car. I built him a motor. I built him I know, wrong size, 78 by 92.
Wait a minute. I thought there was only one size.
Nowadays. So we'd drive around, he'd drive it, and we'd go to Lion's drag strip, and he'd go, "Why don't you run it? Because it's going to be like a half a second slower with me." And so I drove it, and we had a lot of fun, and I'd drive my car. And anyway, we were at his house one time, just sitting around, and he said, "It'd really be fun to have a drag car." I said, "Well, yeah, no, not a street car." He said, "A drag car. What would you think," he said, just proposing an idea, suggesting, "if we turned my car into a race car and you drove it?" And I went, "What?" My eyes got big, and I stumbled over the words, "Yes." So that same night, we called up a few people, and they came over. I don't remember all the guys involved now. I think Sarge came over, Jim Edmiston, a number of guys. We started tearing stuff out, because the first thing you do a street car to make a race car is take stuff out, So we started doing that, and we ended up making it into the Underdog, and it was orange. I forget the name, the VW name of that color then, but it was a 1965, and that was VW orange. So we just put Underdog on it, and we had the guy out behind the clubhouse in Anaheim, Sparky, I think his nickname was, who was a pinstriper. He put on the Underdog and the few little things that we had on there, and I was so happy that it said "Driver Run Fleming" up on the top of the door, and the rest was history. So
Frank Schmitz chiming in.
Hey, Frank.
He said, "Ron, some fun should be ready for EBI. Motor is rebuilt. If you want to go in it, we'll be ready for you."
I'd be happy to give it a go. Thank you, Frank.
It's really cool to see, just to go there, first of all, was just amazing. But to see all the cars, and then to see some of you guys that are out there, the old timers that are jumping in their cars, and it was, I could only use this from a personal experience. So when we brought the Schleys to March meet this year, and it was like 50 years to the day that they had won that event. And then I can remember it so vividly, towing Paul down the return road. I could just picture, and you have to be there, I guess, to take it, but you could just see 25-year-old Paul, just that shit-eating grin on his face, and just looking fresh and new, and just flashback. It was just amazing.
And the same thing is it happened in the European Bug-In, because thanks to Russell Ritchie, he recreated Daryl's double cab. So here's the double cab towing the inch pincher back down, of course, the middle of the drag strip, which never happened, but still, it's so neat to see. And I remember when I talked Daryl, I talked Schley Brothers, I talked all these people into coming. The other thing I said to him was, bring your helmet.
Yep.
I said, because if you use their helmet, it's a old-fashioned, open face. I said, bring your helmet that fits and everything, because I do. I get on the airplane and my carry-on is my helmet bag, because I know when we go there, we're going to get the luxury and the joy of driving some of these nostalgia cars. And other than, the cars look the way they used to, we don't, but we get to get on them and give it a go. And it's a lot of fun.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. A few years ago, I talked a bunch of Panzers into going. I think we got a shot of 10 or 11 of us with our jackets on at EBI, which is really an iconic picture and a lot of fun. And everybody that went to a man said, this was one of the best times I've ever had. So a lot of them keep coming back. So we have a lot of fun.
I think if we keep talking about it as hype as we try to build this thing up, we'll get some more people over there and do it.
Well, you better start making reservations now because all of the places fill up.
Yeah. I firsthand experience. I think they only have a few rooms left at the Cowlick Castle, so I'm on it.
Yeah, that's the Chateau Fermé de Mâcon. My French is horrible Belgian, but it's a beautiful. It's actually a converted old church, and it has a number of rooms and stuff, and they've converted into this really cool. And we call it the Cowlick Castle because all of us gringos, I like to call us, go and we stay there.
I got another good one. Who was the baddest dude on the street back in the early days?
Okay, so
and we don't disclaimer. We don't condone testing stuff.
Okay, so in the club, Mike Mahaffey had pretty much the baddest car. He ran at Lions. This is a street car. He ran 1192. Now, I didn't have no back seat in it, and it was a split window, and it had close ratio gears because we all in the club put up with having close ratio gears, which meant in high gear you'd be going down the road at like 55 miles an hour, and you're whipping like 42 or 4,400 RPM, so, and turn a lot of RPMs, but you had to have that. So I'd say Mike Mahaffey. We used to have a top 10 board, and, it was always constantly, you could challenge the guy above you. If you wanted to go, if you were number 7, you wanted to go up. You couldn't say, I want number 5, No, you had to beat number 6 to get to number 5. So, it was heavily contested all the time. But Mike Mahaffey usually stuck up there at number 1. Don Crane was up there. My partner, Greg Aronson, was up there for a while. Not at 1, but... a lot of us fluctuated around 3, 4, 5, so a lot of names changed around. And
list racing before there was list racing. Sounds like the 405 guys taking a little number there, huh?
Yeah, we used to have a lot of fun. We would have our meetings. We had a clubhouse, which was a room at the old Pickwick Hotel in downtown Anaheim. And in those days, it was like... I think it was $95 a month to rent the room, because it was basically a storage room they had that we put a couch in there and some chairs and stuff, and we'd have our meetings there. And the pictures have been all over Facebook of the meetings. And there's a famous one of a long-haired Ron Fleming holding the gavel up, about to hit the gavel, and Mike Johnston, my brother, rest in peace, and Craig Foster, and Jerry Harmon. I think that was on the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. We had 4 officers at the time, and it was a lot of fun. We'd have a meeting every Friday night, and then one way or another, we might find ourselves out behind the White Front store there, not far from just a little cruise down Anaheim Boulevard, so we could get things right and see, because at the meeting, if I was running the meeting, at the end of the meeting, I'd go, does anybody need to make a number change? That was,
code word for getting shit.
Yeah,
Right?
okay. I want, because the top 10 board hung in the clubhouse, so you could see it up there, You walk in, and there it was prominently,
So how was the rivalry between you and like other clubs, or who was,
it was pretty good. It was usually friendly. We got along with a lot of clubs. There was a DGVA in Garden Grove. We used to hang a lot with the DRF guys, the Rennwagen Führers, because they also had a clubhouse, and they used to invite us over to play a game of Thumper. I don't know if I don't even know if it exists nowadays.
Never heard of it.
Thumper was a drinking game, so you would to clap your hands, and say, "What's the name of the game?" And you'd say it, and then you'd count 1, 2, 3, and everybody'd give a signal, like this or like this or or whatever, or different signals. And if somebody gave your signal, you had to recognize it and give your signal and then go on. And if you missed your signal, you'd have to take a drink. We tried to keep it within reason. We think that you should all drive sober, and anybody that got out of hand got driven. And anyway, that was back in the days, and we had a lot of fun with them. There was a club in Whittier, Der Volkswaffen. We used to have a little kind of a, they wanted to have a little come see if they could, match with somebody
taste.
who was on the board, whatever. Yeah, I remember a guy named Mike Lemire in Volkswaffen. He had a pretty bad hot rod, and he owned a chrome shop up in Whittier on Whittier Boulevard. And so we got along with everybody. One of the most fun things we did back in the day when we had clubs is clubs would put on rallies. That's how you'd raise money, and you'd support other clubs. But we would always show up maybe just a little late because the rallies usually started in Anaheim at Montgomery Wards. And when you turn into Montgomery Wards, it was this big, long, concrete block-lined entry. So, we'd pull up on the side of the road, and the first guy would pull in. Usually the honor was reserved for if you're number one on the top 10 board. You pull up in there, and as soon as he is clear, the next guy. And we had 20-something guys with dual Weber cars. So we'd go one after another, and hopefully it'd get through it without anybody breaking anything. And then, then we'd hang around, and a lot of us we'd pay for the rally and get our dash plaque and all that stuff and support the club. But most of it had close ratio gears and a lot of horsepower. We didn't run the rally. We'd just head off to the Shakey's where it was going to end, right? And then the next thing that it would happen at the end of the rally, and I think we kind of started this, the Panzers, we'd do a club yell where you'd stand up on the table, somebody. Yeah. I don't remember who did it for the Panzers, but he would scream, "Give me a P," and he'd spell out the name. What's that spell? Panzers. And then other clubs would do it, And it was fun back and forth. And by the end of the evening, we were all calmed down and we'd cruise on home. But it was a lot of fun. And I don't see that happening so much nowadays for whatever reason. But events, I believe that, club displays, I'd love to see that come back. That doesn't happen too much. We've tried to, with Periscope Enterprises, who I help the Kimballs, tried to inspire that, but I know that the Deeks, that's a DKK, they come and they display their cars. The Panzers come at time and display their cars. But it would be nice to see club displays. We used to we'd put pictures up and we'd put all our trophies out, and we'd have a bus opened up with lots of the trophies in them. And we used to have burgundy flags with a DKP Panzer emblem on it. That's not done so much anymore. It's an old habit, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
Sounds like something
I'm
we need to have for that.
inspiring you guys to come out and do that, including the Panzers, my own club, who are a bunch of wonderful guys, and most of us are old now, but we should be inspiring guys to come along and try to join the Panzers and the Deeks. And I know the Deeks over the last couple of years have brought some. That's my messenger thing. I should probably turn it off, but it sounds like somebody's honking at me. But anyway, it was cool. It was fun. I'd love to see it again.
Yeah, that definitely brings a good point to us. I'm sure Corey Mac's watching this too. So, hey, Corey, we got to make sure.
Hey, Corey, it was fun to see you out there at Indianapolis, and it was good to see at the end there they finally gave you a good hot rod, and it was a joy to watch.
Heck yeah. But I think it'd be really cool to put that into next year's show, to have the kind of the club display. I know, like, German folks is still out there really pushing hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they have a great display at Prado. A great display.
What would you say it's key right now for like the younger generation to really ignite them, to kind of, I don't say light the passion or whatever, but if you were to tell, guys like him that are just in their 20s or, like even like the Deeks guy, the Riley Reese kid. I mean, that kid's really into it. And it's infectious. And you watch some of you guys comment on his build and post. It's like, cool. How do you inspire the next go around?
I think that other than like this program where we're talking about it, guys that have cars like me and guys that are out in the scene, when somebody comes around and they ask you about the car, don't blow them off. Take the time to talk to them, tell them about it, inspire their interest. Not everybody's going to turn around and run and buy a car, but you never know. And, sooner or later, the one thing that's common to everybody on the planet is you're going to leave. So leave behind some part of you, leave behind some inspiration. I'm not trying to make this a holier than thou thing, but if you love what you do, tell somebody about it, especially if they show interest in it. You never know what can come from it. I myself try to do that. I try to talk to people, when you're, sometimes it's hard to shut me up, to be honest with you. But, if you inspire somebody, you can look at it. That Riley kid, when I first met him and he was hanging around, I think we were at Original Mike's at a Deeks show, and he had his car there. And yeah, he was talking about what it was going to be, and rather than just go, yeah, okay, I said, yeah, that's cool, and talk with him. And I don't know if I did one iota for him, but I felt better about having done that than just walking away.
Yeah, you guys have heard me probably talk about it on the show multiple times, and it's one thing that out of anything that I'll give kudos for, it's Henry. Like that guy, Henry from the Deeks, and also an MP employee, and the guy
Henry's a good guy
and answers the phone for JC and stuff like that, and handles so many things here. But it's very cool because the dude is so passionate and about his car and about the club and about this hobby. He always wants to help. So guys like him, it's infectious, but it's a challenge, and I challenge each and everybody that's in this hobby, that guys that are in your club, and that give these guys a time of day, and just give the guys that are coming up, because we all aspire to sit there and to sit there with you. I mean, to be able to talk about this and be able to have this for the rest of our lives, long after I'm gone or whatever else. This stuff will still be here to be cataloged for life, and be able to do that is so bitchin' to me.
Well, I would say that 2020 has been a year of not getting to do anything. So I would say that we should all look forward to 2021 and go to events and charge out there and try to inspire people. Let's all see if we can't make 21 the year that events were really rocked. Prado is such a huge event, the Bug-In. And I might add that hopefully if the world changes enough, that before the Bug-In, we will have that DKP reunion that we didn't get to have last year, the 55-year reunion, and we were looking so forward to it, and so many plans were laid out to do it, and that all got taken away from us. So, yeah, Europeans, we all coming over to you. You all come over and see us. So you're all invited to the Bug-In and the Prado event and whatever event you can come to. And I would challenge the RVA guys to be involved in all of this stuff. I know they are. They're having a great event coming up this weekend. It's just, wow, it's a 75-mile cruise. And if you got a hot rod, that's a little tough road to hoe, especially if it's 90 degrees or something. So, but anyway, the vintage scene is so very cool. I know I'll see RVA guys next year at Hesse-Scholdendorf.
Heck yeah. Scott chimed in and says Ron will be at Duke's, and it's actually Placentia. I think it's Anaheim, but
yeah,
tonight.
Yeah, come on by.
Yeah, plug the cruise night, man. Tuesday nights, guys. You get to hang out with some cool old dudes. You get guys like Ron. You got Larry.
They have a
Kelly,
pretty good burger
and a cold beer.
Yeah, no, they don't have a cold beer
That's
yet.
Across the parking lot.
Yeah, well, every event isn't necessarily for drinking.
Wow.
Yeah.
There we go.
Truth.
But yeah, Tuesday nights, right, Ron? Duke's?
Tuesday night at Duke's. We do that almost every Tuesday night, unless the two fools are debating. So I stayed home to watch the clown show, and I'm sorry I did. But
yeah, now we can go cruise tonight.
We'll go back to Duke's.
Yeah, Bulk Stroke, good chiming in. Thanks for chiming in on this stuff. We definitely want to get you back on the show and to get you to talk about some of the real street stuff that you're building. But
thank you, Dave, for inspiring and making it. When he came to me and we talked about it, and I told him what needed to be done, He took the job in hand, and that class is bad, bad, bad. They do a great job. They show up. They put on a great show. And I think Jesse, who works here, is involved in that. And, it's fun to see. And I think it's shows that what one person's desire and inspiration and hard work can create. And I thank him very much for it. And he's part of the regular show and the program, his whole class at the drag days and bug-in.
Heck yeah. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. They just wanted you guys to send out the address for Duke's one more time.
Yeah, we'll dig it
or
up.
The location.
It's Placentia, I think.
For Duke's?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's on the corner of Orangethorpe and Lakeview. I don't know the address. It's just Lakeview and Orangethorpe in Placentia.
We'll get it covered.
If you come down the 91 freeway and you get off in Lakeview and you head west and you go up over the bridge of Orangethorpe and you drop off to the right and come around down Orangethorpe and into Duke's. And when you look at Jack in the Box, you're there.
Yeah, 2099 East Orangethorpe Avenue in Placentia.
And bring your VW.
Yep. And you know what? When you go to these shows, don't be a jackass. That's one of the biggest things that I'll tell you. Don't come in there. They actually have a really cool hot rod show on Wednesday night that gets over 100, 150 cars. Don't come in there and don't be the Volkswagen guys that have ruined it for a lot of car cars. Because I remember growing up in the 90s, there were the Rubies and Whittier. No Volkswagens allowed. It's like, dude, don't be that guy.
Yeah, I know you do the world's best burnout, but save it. Save it for the dragster.
Yeah. Yeah,
or out behind white front. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Although I really do miss the
there is no white fronts anymore.
I do miss the burnouts leaving Nick's though. Yeah. Oh, those are badass.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think in today's society and culture, I don't think you could call a store white front.
No, probably not. Yeah, Leonard Castro, thanks for chiming in on Ampy's Own. Yes, it is Placentia. But yeah, check it out. It's definitely it's cool. I mean, like I said, you get guys like you get Alistair, you get Larry Kelly, you get Dave Greiner, you get Big George. I mean, there's so many cool
Scott Pascuma.
Scott in there. I mean, there's so many.
And every now and then, Richard Kimball will show up.
Well, you had Ron Lewis's brother the other week.
It's fun.
Just never changed.
It's a get together with your VW BS session, and we have dinner too.
It's a good hour with your dudes and hanging out.
Yep.
So. Very good.
John Doherty, break out that beautiful oval window. Come on.
Yeah,
he's been around.
It's
Greg Turner. Come on.
They're all local. Start getting these guys to come out and drive their stuff.
Come on, local yokels. Join us.
But those are good questions there, Eddie. How we doing over there on?
I got another one that's popped up twice now. What is your favorite engine size and why?
We went through that one already.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll say it again. 84 by 94 or bigger. 2332
no 86
cc's or bigger.
Okay.
84 by 94 or bigger. My race car is 84 by 96.7.
Don't give away too many secrets.
Yeah. There are no secrets in speed equipment. There's just good applications of old ideas.
Leonard said, Corey, get them class 11s over there. Dude, my car is street legal-ish. And it will make a pit stop there. We've got them parked out in front of Ampy right now. So,
well, I'll tell you, a number of years ago when the Cars and Coffee was down there at the end of or by Sand Canyon, down there in I don't know if that's El Toro or whatever it is off of Alton Parkway, we brought the race car down and we unloaded it down the street. And we drove in. We didn't do anything stupid. We didn't do a burnout or anything because we could have done a fire breathing. But we cruised and just chugged in and boom, 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 with the race car and then parked it like any other car. It was amazing. The thing was surrounded by and I mean not just VW people, all kinds of people because it's pretty strange to see a chop top 9-second VW Bugs on the street, The cop that was out there, he kind of just looked and kind of smiled and just went like, come on in. He knows we weren't doing anything stupid, but we were there for Cars and Coffee. So, and of course, everybody wanted you to, light the tires when you left. No. That would have been the wrong thing to do. But we loaded it back up and we had a really good time doing it.
Give it a couple wraps, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. We had to keep it clean,
What, gosh, there's just so many things, and I'm trying to, and guys, bear with me. I'm trying to stay on top of these questions that are coming through and filter them as fast as I can.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You guys are the lifeblood of this whole scene, and I'm honored to be able to come here and just to yak with you guys. And if there's anything I can give that's an answer that I know, I will. And if I don't know, I might make something up.
So people really want to get in, and a couple of things I've asked is, did they just keep bringing up just off-road stuff? They want to hear about some of your off-road, history or what really kind of got in it. Was it just dumb luck that you got into the off-road aspect?
So what happened was we were building sand buggy motors because, that was a natural, we build hot street motors and drag motors, and sand cars can have big cams, because we're out there just turning it up and it's loose sand because torque isn't as important there. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's not as important. So, and we used to build, running on alcohol with, 10, 15, 20% nitro, blue flame, big type ones, And so we had a guy walk in the door, and he had a company, I think it was Safeway Plumbing, and he had a kid, that was his grandson or something, and he wanted to go off-road racing. So we built him, and the days it was a Class 9 motor. And rather than go into all the details anyway, we built him one. It was a little motor. And we went out to Barstow for the first time to watch this thing run. So we're maybe, I don't know, half mile or 3/4 of a mile from the start line. And he starts off and he's running over these bumps and jumps. And every time he goes in the air, he doesn't lift his foot. He goes, and I looked at my partner and I said, we're effed. He said, we'll never see this thing again. You hear that? The guy's floating the S out of the mouths. We're in trouble here. 250 miles later, he won. And we were kind of hooked. So we started building, and our clientele started growing. We were very lucky. We got guys like Marty Lettner, who could read the desert and had some crazy looking stuff, but he knew how to win off-road races. He won the Parker 500 4 years in a row with our motor.
That's crazy.
We got guys like Larry Ragland, who turned out later on to be a crazy pro truck or trophy truck driver. We got Larry Knoll. We got Ivan Stewart, we got Cal Wells, and the names go on, and we got talented guys, and we gave them. We were intelligent about it. We knew how to build the right motor and not overbuild it, because these things had to go 250 miles, 500 miles, 1,000 miles, and finish. And we were very good at sealing them up and making them not leak. And we really concentrated on doing a professional job. And we made it because we treated it like a business. You came in, you wanted a motor, we need 50% now and 50% when it comes off the dyno, and we guarantee it'll do what we say it'll do. And it did. And they won races. And we'd go to the finish line racing, you had to tech them, and we'd have first, second, third. We didn't make fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh in 1-2-1600. And this would happen race after race. And we'd have people call us and say, I guess I have to have you build me a motor because a red one goes by me. And my motor builder says he can only give me this amount of horsepower. And I go, well, we don't make that much. Well, what's going on? I don't know. Maybe that he builds you 100 and something plus ponies and we build 100 and X horses. We did our homework. We did a good job, and we had good drivers. Again, talented drivers. No matter how good a job I do on the motor, if you don't do a good job with your car, if your car doesn't work going over the roughs good, you can't keep your foot in it. And if you can't read the desert and don't have the talent, it don't work. We were good, and we were lucky.
Yeah, it sums it up right there.
For years. We won Score Engine Builder of the Year 13 or 14 times out of 20 years that they gave it away. So,
wow. Do you feel that you were doing like a ratio, or like how many more off-road motors to regular street motors were you guys building at the time?
There was a time when I would say that our business was probably 80% off-road, 20% street.
Wow. That's crazy numbers.
And there was a time in the very beginning when it was 100% street and drag. We used to have 3 or 4 iGas motor cars that we took care of every year. They weren't the Inch Pincher or the Lightning Bug because they had their own deals. But the Black Widow, the Indian Raider, a number of cars that, they were local, Southern California. They'd maybe run the Winter Nationals, but most of the time they'd run bug-ins and stuff. They'd run the fabulous DKP Carlsbad drags, which was a club run event. And I luckily had the influence to get the Lightning Bug, the Dinosaur, the Inch Pincher. I got all these guys that were pro racers to show up at our club drags. So it was a fantastic event. And Larry Grismer, who owned the place, would flip me the keys and say, okay, close the door when you leave on Sunday night. So we had the drag strip, and it was it was a different world. That could never happen nowadays. No. I couldn't go to Fontana and they go, oh, hi, Ron, here's the key to the joint.
Carlsbad will always hold a special spot in my heart.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was a shame. It's the same thing I think about Lions. Lions is gone, and there's nothing there. It's a bare strip of ground. So we needed it for what? And Orange County International Raceway is business parks that are, for the most part, empty nowadays.
Yep. One of the things that cracked me up most about telling your off-road stories about the horsepower and the comparison between the two was your willingness to swap the motor with somebody, and then you can't how did you word it? You can't
well, here's the deal. Rob McCachran is one of the best off-road drivers ever. He runs all kinds of cars. I mean, he runs trophy trucks and he runs pro trucks in stadium, but yet he'll take a 1.2/1600 and he'll treat it like it's the biggest, baddest trophy truck. He'll go out and test days on end, and he'll take a 1.2/1600 buggy and put streamers on it so he can videotape and change the bodywork to be aerodynamic as much as possible. And he'll change shocks till he has it perfect, and he'll run courses, and he could read the desert. So I'd have customers that had the same motor, and I mean the same motor, and they'd say, I can't beat Rob, I want his motor. And I'd say, I'm sorry to tell you, but I could take his motor out and your motor and swap them, and he's still going to beat you because he has that intangible talent that I can't sell to you. He's just better than you at it. And I don't mean that to insult you. I mean that he treats it like a job. His car works better. He's better. I said, the best thing you could ever do is stay out of your car sometime, be at the roughest part of the course, sit there and watch him come by and look at the lines he chooses. You might be surprised. You might see, oh, maybe I should be there when I'm racing. And I don't mean this as an insult. I mean it as and probably the best thing you could do is to catch a ride with him when he's pre-running, because he usually goes in a 4-seater and ask him, please, could I have a seat with you? He might take you along and you might find out something.
Can I have a seat? Because I'm learning the hard way, but I'm trying.
He's one of the best there ever was. Jerry Welchel is one of the best there ever was. He was one of our drivers. Marty Lettner, he was good. I mean, we had so many good drivers, and you can give the best motor in the world to the worst driver, and it doesn't do anything. Good drivers can have a less than spectacular motor and still get the job done.
Yeah, good points. I have one that just came up right now. Why red fan shrouds? What was the reasoning behind it?
I think I've told the story, but I'm happy to tell it again. Both Greg and I were model airplane flyers. Okay? When we were kids. As a matter of fact, we probably flew against each other because he was in the Orange County Flying Fools, and I was in South Bay in the South Bay Piston Boppers. And I'm like 9, 10 years old, and he's like 7 or 8 years old. So one of the good motors in those days was a McCoy 35 Redhead. means the fins and the top and the head were red. So we were talking about when we were doing off-road, because we didn't have red shrouds on our street stuff. This all happened in off-road because we needed a way that you could quickly see in a buggy, oh, that's a fat motor. So we made the fan shroud red. Beautiful, vibrant, bright red with black tin. Everything else was black tin. So they were recognizable. As a matter of fact, a lot of other motor builders over the years picked colors because we did that. Most everybody else was black with their decal on it. But, when the thing goes by, you can't see the decal, but you can see that red. So all of a sudden, it's like George Jimenez, I think, was blue. And then there's a guy in Vegas, Adam. His was, I think he used yellow or silver or gray. Everybody started doing it, It was like, wow, that's a good idea, So it was just a way of the company logo couldn't be seen during a race. But boy, you could sure as heck tell, oh, that's another red one. That's another red one.
That you got passed by a flying red fan
whatever.
shroud.
But yeah, again, we did a good job. We worked hard at it. We were very lucky. I like to tell people, I say, I ended up doing a job that was fun. I never said, oh, geez, I got to get up and go to work. It was always cool. We're going to the speed shop today. We're going to build some stuff, and we're going to go to the races at the end of the week. The job was not just 5 days a week, because out of 52 weekends a year, somewhere around 40 of them anyway, we were at the desert. We were at a race. We actually inspired other motor builders to have to be there. Because they'd say, well, why are you here? We're here to check our stuff. We're here to make sure that it runs, because no matter how good of a job you do, an idle jack can get plugged. Something can go wrong. And so we're going around and checking the day before the race, and making sure. And every now and then sampling the beer that they might have in the pit day before the race, So anyway, yeah, we had fun doing what we called work. And I figure when you can find something that you love to do and you can make enough money to be happy and alive, you're not working.
Yeah, makes it fun. Bob chimes in right now, says there was a famous Formula V engine builder named Ed Noble, and he would swap engines with his customers that thought he was holding a better one back for himself.
I don't know Ed, but I know of him.
Yeah.
And I've heard that story before.
That's the stuff that Eddie, you're nostalgic too, so you got to dig some of these things. And even not being a full-on VW guy or anything else, but you just got to let the.
We're working on that, though.
We're gonna convert him.
Car guys are car guys.
Yeah, I did take him around the.
I agree. Car guys are car guys.
At the end of the day,
we took him around the complex here in the 11 car, and he's like, this thing's kind of cool.
it is cool. I mean, just being in it and just seeing you do your thing, and I know it's quick, but I have a new respect for what you do. Like, until you're in that seat, you don't understand. Like, you can tell me all the stories, you can describe it, but it's not seeing my hat fly off within 20 seconds.
Rocket ship.
Yeah.
One of the biggest joys, this is going back 50 years, was when we were out on the streets, just kind of cruise around, having some fun, and you'd run into a big Plymouth or a big Duster or whatever. And power to weight always came into play. And there's no greater feel than just whomp, whomp, couple of gears, embarrassing a big V8 powered machine, Yeah, because you could do that. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody out there nowadays. I'm just saying back in the day, we had that little something and nobody expected it. It was actually almost funny if you'd pull up and you kind of shoot. They'd look over you, and in between their smile and their sneer, when the light turned green, there would be dismay.
It's so cool to see this kind of stuff, like from Frank. He's like, hey guys, it's 1:30 in the morning here in Luxembourg, and I can't leave. This is too much.
Frank, it's good to see you, man, or hear you.
Yep, and then
and I'll see you next year, praying that the world's a better place.
Yeah, let's just all hope for it, man, and hopefully things will turn around. I definitely want to get over there and share it with all you guys. I mean, the chuck wagon train of chairs coming through the the airport with the sleighs and everybody. But
so I actually have a few more pictures. So before
let's
we
do it.
wind up, I should show some of these and hopefully I have them arranged so that it's not too much of a delay or a hassle.
No. Alex, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure there's several thousands of them. He's like, any idea how many genuine BRMs are still around? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's got to be a good amount still. I mean, and stuff just keeps turning up. You never know what you're going to find next. That's the cool part about some of this stuff. People think barn finds are gone and this is gone. There's stuff turning up all the time. I mean, and look at Dean's deal. It's just sitting in the back of a greenhouse for 35 years. And what a perfect name for the car at the time, too.
Okay, well, notwithstanding the orange one, I crashed the orange one, so we made Underdog 2.
Cool.
That was the second Underdog, and that was the last Underdog. Although Russell recreated that one, so both the Underdogs are in Europe.
I like the empty sticker in the corner window there.
Yeah, it was on the originally.
With the blue BRMs. That's cool. I'll get out of the way, Ron, so we can have some fun here. What better way to spend a Tuesday afternoon, guys, than rummaging through Ron Fleming's personal collection of good-sized pictures and whatnot?
All right, this is my partner's race car, which is considered by many, especially in that era, to be the most beautiful. I'm not taking anything away from the Dinosaur or the Pincher or the Lightning Bug, but this car had a Leonard Becker black lacquer paint job because Leonard was known for black lacquer. And this was viewed by many to be the prettiest because it had the red with black mottled interior in it, and it was just the finishing on it was like for a show car. So definitely sweeter and cleaner than the Underdog. But anyway, my partner built this, and I kind of helped him out of the shop. And shortly after finishing it, within a year, he did a couple of nice things. He won the Winter Nationals, but he also tagged the guardrail at Orange County one night, and he said, I don't know if I'm really cut out to do this. And I said, oh, come on, blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I think I want to sell it. And I went, really? Anyway, I ended up buying it. And
That's so awesome.
this is what it looked like after I got it. Because, yeah, I know the BRMs are cool and everything, but these Mitchell wheels are actually lighter.
So that's Mitchell's or Dino's PDS stuff?
The front wheel is a Mitchell wheel, and the back one is a Dino wheel. But then I put this gaudy yellow stripe on it so I could put my name on it. And anyway, we got a lot of help, and we ended up going quicker and faster than it had ever went. Then we got invited via Daryl Vitone to go to Mexico City. So we took it to Mexico City, and if you've noticed in Hot VW's magazine over the past few months, I documented over 4 issues the trip to Mexico. And rather than me go through all the details, I sold the car in Mexico to 3 different Mexican guys for 4 shopping bag full of Mexican money, which turned out to be a little better than twice what I paid Greg for it. So we had a great road trip and a lot of fun. And that was the end of the Tar Baby until Russell Ritchie bought it and brought it back. So it's in Europe too. All the old nostalgic race cars, except for the Lightning Bug, because the Schley brothers have it, are in Europe.
Lightning Bug too, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, big shout out to Russell. I know you gave him some love earlier in the show, but man, the guy's got the who's who and what's what of the Gasser collection.
And then Mike Hunsaker, who was my partner in buying the Tar Baby from Greg, came along and said, hey, why don't you drive my race car now? And I said, okay. And that was when I was 59, and I'm 74 now, so about 15 years ago. And in between buying or joining him on this, I said, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to snazz the car up a little bit. So,
oh yeah, now we're making it all pretty.
I only have a poster that we're on, and then this is what the current car looks like. And it's been all over Facebook, so you know what it looks like. And this car is built by Ron Loomis and is painted by Chris Huckel and is one of the real joys of my life. We have run 996 at 135 miles an hour in super street form, legal, and it is a true joy and a lot of fun. And next to driving Sonny around the street, this is what I do. And 2020 took that away from me, and I'm looking forward to it because next year I'll be 75 and I'm still capable and I'm still able to do it, so I'm going to do it.
Heck yeah. And that's Crawford's next to you in that picture, right?
Yeah, that's Big Daddy,
So
Roger
we gotta
Crawford.
we
We got to get Big Daddy back out.
Another local Anaheim boy and a living legend himself. Love to see. He's got so many damn projects, though. It's hard to keep him focused on one, probably.
This is another old picture of the lightning bug from the Buggy and sitting. This isn't because he got put on the trailer. It's because they haven't taken it off the trailer yet.
And that's Lightning Bug 1.
Yep.
So that's the one that you.
This
guys
is
got
the
to see,
one that Mark crashed. Mark Schley.
which has now been recreated by Russell Ritchie
And that's all I got to show. And I'll take a couple of more questions, but I'm going to vamonos here pretty quick because I'm going to go rev Sonny up and
you drive Sonny today?
go to Duke's. I didn't drive it here because I'm carrying parts.
Oh yeah, that's right. Parts running. You got the Honda probably.
Yeah, I'm the parts boy.
Let's see. We got. Hey guys, awesome hearing about all the good days. No, that's what we wanted. I mean, this show has been requested by many just to talk shop, to talk the days gone by, and who had the quickest dude on the street, and the stories of the clubhouse, and I mean all that stuff. So, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we do it. But
no, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So it'll be time for more question and answer. I got more stories. Some of them I can't tell, but
Jeremy Oman just asked, "What's the first set of pistons and cylinders you swapped into a VW motor?"
Oh, this is going to be fun. When the first time I built a VW motor hot rod for myself, okay, we used Corvair pistons and cylinders because there wasn't anything available other than 85 5s, 1600s. And I did build some 1600 bore longer stroke, 74 and 78 stroke, but we'd actually modified some Corvair stuff to fit. And if I memory serves me right, they were around 90 millimeters was what they were
Really?
close to. They were 3 point. I don't even remember. It's been so long ago. And then we ran into a secret guy named Earl McMills in Inglewood, and he was bringing in Okrasa stuff. And so we had a secret pipeline into some Okrasa stuff. So we built some 78.4 by some 88s. Impy started bringing in 88 and 89s. So, yeah, and then Dean Lowry brought out the 92s, and then along came 94s, and the magic of 84 by 94 happened. So,
and then we'll save the rod links and everything else for another time. Well, there you go.
Very important rod length. Very important. Goes right in with cam choice.
There we go. Well, guys, I mean, what a heck of a show today. Hour and 45 minutes into this thing. Seemed like we just started, but we could go on for hours, and we will the next time.
So, this is Ron Fleming, your host, wanting to tell you thanks so much for our guest today, Corey Ryder, and all them wonderful tall tales of Class 11 racing. And we hope to see you again next time on Corey Ryder Goes Racing.
I can't even close with that. Although, guys, man, thank you, Ron. Thank you so much for coming
My
and
pleasure.
razzing me. All you guys for making this show the fastest growing VW podcast on the planet. We thank you. Check out the YouTube updates, and we are on iTunes. We're loading about every week or two. Then this episode will be available probably next week for you once we clean it all up, and that way you can listen to it while you're in your drive. I know sometimes Facebook and YouTube is difficult, so we thank you. We thank everybody for supporting what we're doing here, and we'll be back next week. We'll catch you later.
See you, VW freaks.